So hi everybody, I'm Zena. I'm an account manager on the channel sales team at Google. Just to echo Jason and Simeon's sentiments from earlier, we're super excited to be here and super excited to go through this content with you. Prior to Google, I actually ran the digital marketing services team for an ad tech software company that was focused on small businesses. So in that vein, I'm very excited to be reviewing this content around automotive consumer behavior.
Thanks, Zena. And good morning, everyone. This is Simeon Andre. I am a strategic partner manager here at Google. Prior to Google, I spent almost 10 years as a strategic consultant to Fortune 500 executives, really helping them understand the latest in digital trends and how they could take advantage of these trends to help transform their business. So I approach everything with a very strategic mindset, and it's been exciting working with Jason and the team in how we can bring Google's suite of products to help transform the auto industry and make a major impact. So under normal circumstances, we would have loved to be here, love to host a session in person with you guys, but the pandemic has really reshaped how we think about life and how we do things, both personally and professionally. In particular, I recognize what a challenging time this is for you and your businesses in particular, as these times have forced us to work around the clock and pivot our strategies to stay successful. On the flip side, these times have presented an immense opportunity to lean into changes into customer behavior and to thrive in a competitive landscape, ensuring you're there when existing and prospective customers are looking for your products and services. We're looking forward to sharing some of our insights in the automotive market and help your businesses continue to thrive. So today's presentation is based on a study that Google and a company called Kantar ran in July earlier this year that surveyed vehicle purchasers 18 years and older who purchased a vehicle in the last 6 months. The study was focused on uncovering insights in the automotive path to purchase. I think what you guys are really going to appreciate about today's presentation is that it really reflects some of the impacts that COVID has had on the auto industry and how you guys can potentially take advantage of those changes for your businesses. So for today's session, we'll cover a number of different topics. First, we'll talk through the implications that COVID-19 has had on the auto market. Then we'll take a deeper dive into understanding the end-to-end auto customer journey. And then we'll also talk about how you guys can get in front of prospective vehicle purchasers. And then we'll close out by talking about some of the key elements in the decision-making process. As Gianna and I think Jason mentioned, this is meant to be interactive. We do have a dedicated Q&A session segment towards the end. But if you do have a question about something that I or Zena say throughout the presentation, feel free to raise your hand and we'll see if we can address it as soon as possible. So we'll jump right in with some of the key learnings from COVID-19. So COVID-19 has changed life as we know it. It has caused a massive disruption to the way that we live and do business. But in particular today, we want to see how it's impacted the auto industry. So during the study that Kantar conducted earlier this year, 78% of survey respondents used Google to research a car purchase. That's up 7% from pre-COVID times. Approximately 62% of those same respondents used dealer websites to research a car purchase. That's also up 7% from pre-COVID times. And the number of touch points involved in the car purchase journey went from 6 to 6.2. And the percent of vehicle purchasers who conducted research on the mobile devices prior to purchasing increased by 5% up to 63%. All in all, digital experiences were critical in the vehicle purchasing process before COVID, but factor even more prominently today. And this might seem like common sense or intuitive for most of the folks here on the call today, but with the pandemic, it's forcing all businesses across all industries to furthermore digitize the way they do business. More and more customers are doing more research online and are looking at ways where they can eliminate, say, the in-person or contact. And that's where digital and that's where Google fits in. When asked what customers would expect from their dealership, vehicle buyer expectations have shifted both online and offline. On the online side, virtual experiences factor prominently. 43% of buyers expect to have online purchasing options available. 41% of buyers expect to have access to video meetings, and 38% expect to have access to a virtual showroom. 29% expect to be able to view comparison videos, and approximately 29% expect online configuration tools. Dealerships can position themselves especially well by adapting to these evolving needs. And this slide just sort of further emphasizes what I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago. There's going to be an increasing demand for more and more online and digital offerings as customers go through the car buying process. And so these are some of the key features that customers will look to going forward. But if you can't quickly adapt to pivot to the virtual expectations of car buyers, there's this ample opportunity to capitalize on the shift to online experiences. When asked what they might do differently in their car purchasing process, 64% of car buyers said that they were more likely to look for information online versus offline when purchasing a car during this climate, meaning there are more online signals of car buying interest than ever before, and more opportunities for your ads to be there as car purchasers are doing their research. And finally, although we know the pandemic will not be a permanent fixture, most auto buyers believe that the stronger prevalence of online touchpoints in the car purchasing process will be here to stay. So adapting to the ever-increasing online presence of car purchasers today will continue to benefit dealerships in the future. So now I'm going to pass it back over to Zena, who's going to talk through the automotive customer journey.
Great. So thank you so much, Simeon. So hopefully you guys can all see my screen okay. Can I just see a thumbs up in the chat if you can, or I guess you can't do a thumbs up, maybe just a one yes, and we'll get started. All right, fantastic. Cool. So I'm especially excited to be covering this content today. I actually myself just went through the purchase path a few weeks ago. Like many in this pandemic, I relocated from a more urban area, from Boston to Milwaukee in Wisconsin. And so that was sort of the catalyst for me to look for a car. And so part of the automotive customer journey that I'm going to be walking us through today, I actually personally lived. So we'll get to take a look at that together. So today's car purchasing journey is pretty complex. There's a lot of information that buyers need to consume before making a decision, and there's a lot of places buyers can turn to get that information, right? So when users were surveyed on where they turn to get vehicle information, the sources ranged from search engines, and so that's that top red line you see over there, to in-person dealer visits, that's that blue line, to direct dealer website visits, the yellow line. And interestingly, although users turned to all three sources, search engines were by far and away the leader of all sources of traffic, all sources of information gathering, I should say. And this was especially true on the discovery side too. So when we see like all of the different touch points where search really factored prominently, it tends to be on the earlier side of the purchasing journey. And that's super important because when car purchasers were asked about how important each point along the journey was to them, the discovery and assessment end of the journey were actually as important as the decision-making purchasing ends. So what this basically means is that getting in front of users as they look to discover, get information, and compare is just as important as being there when users are ready to take that final plunge and make a purchase. So what do we mean when we say be there? Well, we know that search engines are the leading source for car buyer research, and we know that 92% of buyers research online at some point in their car buying journey. So for example, when I, a prospective used car buyer, started my search, I ran discovery-oriented information gathering queries. My specific example, best mid-sized cars of 2018, to help narrow my search. And when I moved along and narrowed my picks even further, I looked for information specifically related to a few makes or models. So spoiler alert, my winning selection was a Honda CR-V 2018. And while I was running these searches, dealerships had the opportunity to serve me ads at each point of this journey. But what I found was that this was actually an opportunity most dealerships missed. So when I searched buy a used car, most of the results above the fold, so that kind of like top section over there, were paid ads, but not necessarily dealership ads. And so when you look at how far I had to scroll to actually get to a dealership listing, it was quite far on the page. So there was a ton of opportunity for dealerships to take up higher real estate on the search results page that they were really not capitalizing on early on in the purchasing process. When I narrowed my search further, looking for dealerships near Boston, for example, I did start to see more dealership ads. And when I started to get extra specific, even listing my target price and budget, I got served some really great ads with actually even the listing and price point. That last ad there on the bottom is a fantastic example. And what this really highlights is that search factors so prevalently through each of these customer journey stages. So it's super critical that dealerships maintain a presence and have a presence at each stage of this buyer journey. So when we've talked a little bit about how important search is to the customer purchasing journey, but getting in front of prospective buyers on Google can actually extend beyond search as well. We can extend beyond search and keyword targeting by actually targeting audiences. And this is something that a lot of advertisers or dealerships might not actually know about. What is audience targeting? Well, it's basically leveraging behavioral and psychological criteria to get in front of a group of interested buyers. And the three audiences we're going to focus on for this presentation will be remarketing audiences. So those are audiences who've engaged with your business in some form or fashion previously. In-market audiences, these are audiences that have signaled any sort of intent to purchase a vehicle, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. And life event audiences. Life event audiences would be audiences who are going through a key life milestone and might actually be interested in purchasing a car and have been triggered by that life event. So as we've discussed, in addition to reaching all of those users out there who are searching for information on your products or services, Google also allows dealerships to potentially target users who visited your actual dealer site previously or engaged with your business in some form or fashion via remarketing audiences. Google allows dealerships to target users who've exhibited signals that they're in the market for a vehicle purchase. And Google allows dealerships to actually target users who may be going through a life event or key milestone that might actually prompt or come with a vehicle purchase. Mine was moving, as we talked about. So remarketing is probably the method of audience targeting most of you are already familiar with, as it's really one of the most powerful targeting methods, especially when we consider that 76% of customers will leave a page prior to actually taking action on that page. So of all of the site traffic that you get to your landing page, only a very small percent of that actual traffic base will actually end up taking action, whether that's a purchase or a form fill. So with remarketing, dealerships can actually serve ads to previous website visitors while they browse the web. And this also might be a phenomenon that you guys have experienced in your own product perusing. So if you've ever had a product you've checked out, kind of sort of stalk you on the web, follow you around as you're reading the news or browsing around, most likely these companies are leveraging remarketing. But there are other methods of audience targeting that are also super powerful. So this might be one that you guys are a little bit less familiar with. In-market audiences, for example, allow dealerships to target users who've exhibited online behavior in some form or fashion that indicates they may be in the market for a car. So for example, say a user clicks on an ad for car insurance, watches a car video review on YouTube, or downloads a car comparison app on their Android. Google actually has access to all of these data points and can classify that user as someone who is in the market for a vehicle. And from there, dealerships can target these in-market audiences with ads as well. Another audience group advertisers can tap into are life event audiences. So these are audiences that will be going through a big life milestone like graduating, getting married, in my case, making a move or purchasing a home. And often these audiences may be interested in auto dealerships because these life events are triggering them to buy a new car, or at least triggering the need to buy a new car. So when surveyed, nearly half of experienced car buyers indicated a big life event was what actually triggered them to buy a car. So now that we've taken some time to understand the ways in which we can get in front of a car buying audience, let's better understand what these buyers want from their car buying experience and what's important to them. So the Google and Kantar study uncovered some key takeaways around automotive consumer behavior and their quick decision making. And in particular, the survey found that, as we've touched upon, online discovery primarily occurs online, that digital tools can help buyers comprehensively compare and choose vehicles in advance of a dealer visit, and that now more than ever, YouTube and video can help buyers take follow-up action. So when it comes to time in market, the majority of vehicle purchasers actually spend less than 1 month in the market for a car. And I can actually confirm that was my experience as well when buying my used CRV. And we know that much of my discovery journey and much of users' discovery journeys are conducted online. And that lines up with the survey data as well. So when buyers were asked how they discovered the vehicle they most recently bought, 80% of them said online. And when auto purchasers were asked about what features facilitated that online research, 61% said the ability to compare vehicles online was critical. 52% felt that detailed descriptions and pictures or videos were what was most important to them. And 43% felt access to independent ratings was really what helped move their research along. Additionally, prospective buyers are leveraging higher tech online experiences more than ever before. So when asked about the tools and technologies that they leveraged throughout their research, 64% said that they used a car comparison tool, 63% said that they leveraged 360-degree video, and 54% said that they used a car configuration tool. And finally, 48% said that they used some sort of virtual reality 3D car viewing tool. So much of the tools and technologies that were mentioned is really, really valuable to car buyers, and like car comparison or like 360-degree video, for example, can actually be achieved by leveraging YouTube. So YouTube's value to consumers is supported by the data. 47% of vehicle purchasers said that YouTube helped them decide what type of vehicle to purchase and assisted them in that purchase journey as well. So for buyers who are looking for virtual experiences, you don't necessarily have to architect or engineer a fancy 360-degree tool. Simply leveraging YouTube can also play to your advantage as well. And beyond just assisting in research, video actually compels prospective purchasers to take action, right? So 80% of those who watched an online video completed at least one follow-up action, whether that be visiting a dealer website, scheduling a test drive, locating a dealer, requesting a quote. Any sort of valuable action was prompted or helped along by online video as well. And so really that brings us to the end today. And given that we've covered so much and thrown a lot at you in a fast amount of time, we wanted to recap with some key takeaways. The first being that COVID-19, like Simeon discussed, has really accelerated the automotive buyer's digital shift, and that this digital shift will likely continue well past the pandemic. The second is that both research and decision-making touchpoints along the customer journey factor prominently for vehicle purchasers and rely heavily on search. And search ads can really help dealerships be there for all touchpoints that matter. The third is that search actually presents only one opportunity to get in front of prospective buyers. It's arguably the most powerful, but there are other ways to get in front of audiences, and that's through audience targeting via remarketing, in-market audiences, and life events, and those can have huge impact. And four, virtual experiences and high-tech digital experiences are important for prospective vehicle purchasers. That's especially pronounced right now when it's a little bit challenging to get to a dealership directly. So leveraging YouTube can really help dealerships meet many consumer virtual demands. And so given that we've covered a lot today, if there's anything that I can sort of leave you guys with, it's that there's so much untapped opportunity for dealerships with Google Ads. Partners like Wayne Reaves have the tools and resources to help you tap into that potential. So we're actually going to hand it over to the Wayne Reaves team now to walk you through their solution and approach, which we're super excited to learn more about, and which, if any of you felt a little bit overwhelmed by the information overload that we talked through today, will hopefully reassure you that you'll be in good hands with Wayne Reaves.
Thank you, Zena. Simeon, I appreciate it very much. And I just kind of want to roll back to 1987 when this company was founded. My dad's vision, Wayne Reaves, was to take complicated products like compliance and paperwork and collections and everything involved and simplify it so that everyone could basically have a solution. And that's really what we've tried to do here at Wayne Reaves with this product, is take a very complicated process that can be overwhelming to a team that doesn't have their own marketing department, and launch a solution that simplifies it and basically allows us to do the heavy lifting for you. So with that, I kind of want to turn it over to Ryan at this point in time, and Ryan can kind of go through his presentation and present what we offer here at Wayne Reaves.
Thank you, Jason. I'll go ahead and share my screen. My job is to make sure that the alignment between our technology, aligns not only with Google, but also industry standards to make sure that we always have, the most advanced products in the industry. And I think there's one thing that, to caveat off of a lot of what we learned through the Google segment, is that, not only is there a trend pushing towards, this type of need, but what we see is a huge opportunity for used and independent dealerships to take a hold of this space. If you notice in her search, you didn't see many independent dealerships. It was mostly, I think I seen CarMax and Carvana, and that's where, you see a lot of the energy spent, where we find, opportunity for used car markets and used car industry, these independent dealers to have their own space in these search queries. So just moving forward, what I'll do is I'll just focus real quickly on the product features that we have, something that kind of separates us from the market. Of course, Google has a ton of built-in features like additional networks like YouTube, remarketing access, audiences, in-market audiences, life event audiences, and those are fantastic features. And so we obviously have available all of those available. But in addition, we build some of our own technology that allows us to have a few additional industry-specific style of features. So we'll move forward to some of our core features. So the first one is complete transparency. So our Google Ad solution, this is your account. If you have an account, we can adopt the account, or we can transfer the account. This is your access. This is your account, and it is transferable and funded directly. So in event that we adopt the service or you transfer the service, you'll at least have that account. We are a fully managed service, which means we take off all the pressure off your dealership to run and maintain these at a high grade at a partnership level. And again, this takes the pressure off of this ongoing updates and management to ensure proper optimization, as well as again, we have no long-term contracts. We earn our clients' business month by month. So each month we do this, we do not hold you to a contract terms. Like we just love to earn that business each month. And then we give you full access to reporting through Google Analytics. You have full access to look at, clear down into even the keywords that we're using. Each campaign is tagged, conversions are tagged. So a very transparent reporting process as well. Two big core features or additional features that we'll focus on with our technology today is the first one is budget controlled ads. Now this one is something that is pretty unique because basically it'll allow us to dictate how to effectively apply your budget over a 30-day time frame based on sales data, incentives, or in many cases, we know that the end of the month is a big push. So your trend line can look heavier budget spend towards, the end of the month versus the beginning of the month, or a straight line. Or we can also adopt, sales data to determine which time is the best time to release the most budget. This obviously resulting in more balanced sales and traffic and leads. The next big one that this is the one we're probably the most excited about, is inventory controlled ads. So we will have an automation tactic that will deploy inventory specific search ads. For example, if you have 10 Silverados left in stock, we can auto generate those ads based on inventory control, or we also can do things like a total amount of inventory. So 221 inventory, vehicles in stock, trucks, SUVs, whatever that may be. And then as well, we could get as granular as you've seen in Zena's search. It was actually doing a make and model specific search. That's also, another really cool inventory feature with our product that will be, incredibly different. You might not even find, from other providers. So that's the two big core features that we're highlighting today, as well as all the mini features that Google has. These two automation tactics here really ensure a proper release time for your spend, as well as controlled inventory released ads based on thresholds that either we set, based on inventory count, or we're doing make and model specific ads. So next step for us, and I'll wrap up pretty soon, is I do have a case study that we're going to run over. This is a dealer out of San Antonio, Texas. They're a niche dealer, may be on the call, just sitting in, but these are some good friends of ours here at Wayne Reaves. And so what I want to highlight here this is the website data, website leads, traffic, and sales we have a 2019 versus a 2020 plan. They joined us in the mid-February, beginning of the second week of February in 2020. That's right before, obviously, the pandemic and a lot of other contributing factors come through over these next 10 months here. But what I want to highlight, obviously, is the blue lines here you see is the results of their leads, the traffic, and their sales from their website generated in 2020 versus the red is the 2019 numbers. So basically, you'll see a little circle around each one of the line graphs, and in those, that's basically where we started, and you can see the difference that our product lines for our advertising solutions are able to make even during a pandemic. So what this does is this challenges the idea that you are dependent on a third party to generate or drive leads for you. What this is happening on this client's website, their environment. It's not, we're not outsourcing or moving the lead process. It's actually resonating, and we're sending these directly to this type of traffic directly to the dealership's website, which allows you to create that brand reputation and allow them to remember your brand along the customer journey. Whereas, we know that might not happen in specific third-party environments. So, we see leads up 121%, traffic up on website 103%, and website sales up 67%, with a return on ad spend of greater than 10 to 1, which is, for every $1 we're given in advertising spend, we're generating $10 back in return or higher. And so these are really staggering numbers in terms of the impact that our product and our advertising solution makes. So we wanted to take time to highlight these guys. If you're on the call, guys, awesome working with you as well on this stuff. But again, this is what we wanted to highlight here to show you what the impact could be and what it looks like when these things are ran properly, and the effect that it makes on a dealership's website. And last but not least, everybody on the call today is eligible for $150 ad credit. This is obviously done directly through the Wayne Reaves advertising solution. You could go to WayneReavesAdvertising.com, drop something here in the chat, and we can coordinate that. But everybody on the call today gets a complimentary $150 ad credit to give us a test drive. We believe in that threshold. We're able to show you and prove to you a good data points to show the impact of our ad solution, and as well as also some of the real cool benefits of being able to be partners with Google. So thanks again, Google, Simeon and Zenon. But I will pass over now to Jay if you want to wrap it up. But guys, thanks again for your time. And if there's any questions that you have, we have an open Q&A coming up next. You can drop a few lines in the chat. Or again, if you can visit WayneReavesAdvertising.com for any additional questions that you might have.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. And a couple more questions I have that I think would benefit the audience in general is, can you talk about basically the time that it takes to come in and get started? What does that process look like from the dealer's perspective, as far as they start exploring the options to do some advertising, and then where does that go from there? Explain to them what the launch process looks like.
Sure. Let's just assume we don't have an existing an account and we're starting fresh. Obviously, the timeline gets a little shorter if you have an adoption of an account. But nonetheless, we'll start with the idea that there is no existing Google ad account, and we're starting fresh in Google. We look like an adoption rate sometime between a 7 to 10 day time frame to get these coordinated, connected tracking set up. And the funny part is, Jason, most of that time is just getting a tracking code put on a website in that 7 to 10 time period. If it's a non-native site for us, sometimes it takes a little longer, but ideally, we are up and running in a 7 to 10 day time frame. That's with the user having access to Google Analytics and as well their ad panel as well.
And then what type of data are we looking at? Go ahead and explain. We get their inventory, we get their sales data. How does that process look?
Yeah. So obviously with the inventory controlled ads, we'll need a feed. Again, if it's a non-native Wayne Reaves client, so if you're using somebody else like Dealer Fire or something like that for your website, or you have a DMS that's not with us, again, we just request a feed like most providers in this industry. We just grab the feed from your provider. We get that connected into our chassis or our managed platform. And then, of course, we do require tracking codes. Those tracking codes are important because that allows us to not only train the ads to optimize, based on performance, but it also gives you guys something to look at. So we'll give you full access and a setup to Google Analytics reporting with what we will have lead tracking or goal tracking. And of course, this comes with a weekly rollout reporting as well. So I would say the setup, onboarding for the feed, if you're non-native, if it's us, we'll get you in the same day if we're the website provider, because we have your feed in-house. So it's that's a different time frame. Just assuming you're non-native and you don't currently have an ad solution. I would assume that the feed, sometimes it takes a provider 3 to 7 days to get us a feed. But if in terms of what times we need is 7 to 10 days, and you guys are up and running.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Jason, I just want to jump in just to add in, and Ryan, I think you touched on this a little bit about just there's a setup component from as far as the time it takes to set up. But I think just in general, you'll see ads perform better over time. So the more data that we have, and the sooner that folks sign up and for the service, that'll give the Google machine learning engines more time to sort of accumulate more data and therefore get you result in better performance. And the reason why I mentioned that point specifically is because I know that the Q1, Q2 tends to be sort of a peak season for this particular segment of the auto industry. So just wanted to sort of plant that seed as folks start thinking about when timing and when they want to get going.
Yeah, that's a good
thank
segue.
you. That's a great point. That's Jerry, are you on the call?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that kind of leads right into these questions for you is, for those of you that do not know, Jerry Jennings' background, he's basically spent the first part of his life working with other big advertising companies. He's well exposed in all mediums of advertising. And Jerry, if you could explain, first of all, how this compares to other advertising, as well as basically explaining how the longer people are on this platform, the more efficient it gets, the smarter it gets through artificial intelligence.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you very much. And guys, I'm glad to actually be here today. It's been a joy to work with Jason and to have known the team and to also be in this platform. I don't care. I've had the opportunity to work with some of the largest dealer groups in the world, and I've worked with some of the smaller guys. And the big question that's out there is, what can we do to get more direct in-market traffic to our website? And so, this is perfect timing. I mean, the platform here, with your ability to run to that in-market consumer and drive that direct traffic there. And the neat thing about the Google on the learning side is these ads are only going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. So when you compare it to the other forms of media that I've been in, this is a game changer because your ads are being optimized in real time. And like Simeon said, the longer that you give these ads opportunity to run, they're going to dial in and get smarter, and that traffic's only going to get better. And the guys out in Texas, I mean, they've been just a joy to work with, and they had this vision of becoming a dealership that was driving its own traffic and growing the sales to a whole nother level. And we have to look at at COVID as an opportunity, because he said, I think, which is worth highlighting, is that not only did this happen, but it happened during this pandemic as well. So the research from Google shows that the digital experience online is even growing there. But with that being said, if you look at everything that I've had the opportunity to look at, I mean, it's all about getting that in-market consumer to your website. And there's good traffic and bad traffic, and this opportunity to work with Google to provide you in-market good traffic to the website, and with this e-learning, is just a game changer.
Jerry, if you could again kind of explain to the group what's the advantage of allowing us to manage their account as opposed to them trying to do it on their own?
Well, allowing us, we're going to bring a corporate grade partnership level to your team, which is going to really, give y'all guys the ability to do what y'all do best. Y'all are at the lot. Y'all are on the lot. And every dealer that we put on this platform and that we've been talking to, they tell me, hey, I got a lead for you, but don't stop doing what you're doing for me, because they need more people at the lot. They need more traffic. So it allows y'all guys to 100% focus on what y'all need to do at the lot. That's answer the phone calls, get the leads, get the person on the lot and sell the car, and allow you to have a world-class marketing team behind you in the background, driving all of this business for you.
And I want to add into that, Jerry, that they also will have Google by extension of working with Wayne Reaves. So Zena and I, we are dedicated resources to this partnership, and our job is to make sure that Wayne Reaves is successful in sort of delivering this product offering to you guys, the end customer. So we have a number of internal resources on our end, we're consistently thinking about new ideas that we could drive additional leads, conversions, and traffic for members of the independent auto space, more specifically Wayne Reaves customers.
And Simeon, thank you, because guys, that's the game changer. For us to be able to tap into Google, the resource that Google's got, this is actually e-commerce 101, driving these in-market consumers directly to your lot there. So, I mean, it's a world-class partnership that gives y'all an advantage in a space that right now the majority of the independent dealers just aren't embracing it. All right.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's just so little interaction by the independent market right now that it's just wide open, as we've seen in some of the case studies that we've done. Bob Higgins, are you on the call?
I am on the call.
Okay. Did you have any questions before we kind of turn it over to the group?
Really, I don't. I think it's a good job. I think sometimes people certainly I'm not as high tech as Jerry and obviously our friends from Google are, and a lot of times I think people may miss the big picture. Really is there's so much information out there about people in general that Google have access to and can tap into, so that when a dealer has a vehicle being advertised on their website, they know who these people are and they serve advertisements to them on websites maybe they're looking at. It may be worth mentioning, and maybe our friends from Google can do this, or Ryan Norman can do this in a better way. But in my mind, if sometimes I'm sitting around in the evening looking at something on my phone, and then the next day I'm at work and I get an ad pop up, and when I'm looking at another website or something like that, and I'm like, how did they know to do that right here for me right now? And so that may be, in my mind, in a lot of people's mind, that's kind of sneaky, but that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about sneaking dealerships' vehicles in front of people who are looking for those vehicles that maybe wouldn't otherwise know your dealership had one. I think that's what we're talking about in a nutshell. Is that correct?
Yeah, Bob, I think that's a fantastic point, and that kind of drives to the point we were making earlier about remarketing audiences. That's that exact example where you kind of feel like you're being maybe followed around by a specific product. And, the goal of that is to serve a relevant product to someone who's looking for it. So it's not necessarily a nefarious goal, but it is something that's super powerful because, like you said, there are so many signals that users might be giving off that indicate they're interested in a product. So another thing too, I just want to make sure everybody knows, Simeon answered this question in the Q&A, but just to make sure that everybody's aware, the data that we covered today is specifically focused on used vehicle sales as well. So just want to make sure that everybody knows, like, the online trends that we're seeing are not limited to new vehicles only. We're really seeing this shift in the landscape for used inventory as well.
Fantastic. I don't really have anything else. I sometimes think that it's an extremely complicated process. I know there's one message in the chat that I'm fixing to respond to, and it basically evolves around pricing, but I don't know if I think you just basically set your own budget, maybe the answer to that.
Yeah, that's that's part of what we do. Ryan and Jerry, they start pulling the data, they start looking at your budget, what you want to do, and they basically find the most effective way to utilize that budget. We understand that your dollars are very important to you, and hopefully we have proven to you over the years that we're very conscientious about our technology and try and give you everything that you ask for. And it's the same here with this product, is that whatever your budget is, we're out there to look for you and basically utilize it. And we take very seriously the fact that you're entrusting us with that.
And I'd like to kind of jump in there for a second, guys. That's one of the things with the last 30 years I spent in automotive advertising. Before we do one thing with you, we're going to sit you down and have a conversation. We're going to do a complete audit. If you're doing stuff right now, what are you doing? Where are you getting the results from? We're going to do a deep dive into your business model, and we're going to talk about not only what you're currently doing, but what are you missing out on? Or if you're doing nothing, and this is my business plan, and this is what I'm trying to target, we're going to have a deep dive conversation there too, to set you up from the smallest guy that's not doing anything to the bigger dealers that have got multiple avenues to really get a good idea of how we can come in and impact your business in the best way.
Ryan, here's a good one for you. Do you think it's best to go to a landing page with lead capture or straight to the dealer page?
I guess it depends on the route. I mean, ideally, anytime you can, if you're talking about the landing page as a vehicle display page, then I would always suggest sending somebody to a VDP, lower clicks to get a lead is always should be the goal. But if it's just a landing page, that doesn't have the vehicle on it, I would always suggest just going to the dealer page. Unless that's an incentive LP, you got to look at it from that more of an operational angle. Hey, if it's a incentive LP where it's 0% financing for 82 months or 84 months, and that's your big call to action, then driving that type of traffic centric to that LP probably makes sense. But I would say if it's just sending them to a vehicle display page over a dealer, just the main page, I'd always say the specific vehicle.
And here's another great one, and it kind of leads right into that, getting your sales data and building the right audience, is that if they're getting them there, but they're attracting the wrong type of customer that can't get the financing that they can provide. Ryan, do you want to go through that's why we build the audience?
Correct.
And specifically go after the right type of customer for you.
Yeah, correct. In many cases, we're able to leverage either your CRM data or your sold data to identify a core customer, which allows us to really pinpoint, the credit worthiness of, your buying behaviors internally. Now that might vary for buy here, pay here versus independent that's, runs a very larger operation with, back-end financing, that kind of stuff.
Question for our friends at Google. Is there a specific study being conducted on the buy here, pay here mark?
So I could take that second question. So short answer is no, but the way that we treat the buy here, pay here market, it's essentially a branded campaign. And that's sort of where Google has sort of shown its expertise. So it's essentially honing in on the right keywords for the right audience. So we do have the power. I mean, we do. Google has millions, if not billions, of data points that we can leverage to sort of hone in on the customers that would be primed for the buy here, pay here market. And then definitely I could take this up as an action item as well to see if we've done any specific research on this. But in short, it's essentially what we would call a branded campaign, and it's something that we have a lot of experience in.
Yeah, and one thing I'll throw in there too, and Adonis, one thing we have seen, what we do know is that there's seems to be not a lot of competition in those specific keywords that are centric to buy here, pay here market. So what we see is that the big time franchise, providers that are in, the Google ad space already aren't bidding on buy here, pay here keywords. So what we see is that is kind of an open market currently. And one of the ways that we're able to provide a ton of value with the buy here, pay here industry is, staying underneath the nose of those big spins, again, where you're not in a super competitive market with, buy here, pay here near me, or dealership financing, near me, stuff like that. We don't find it as competitive.
Yeah, and let's, I know we're drawing to the end of our time here, but one of the great questions is, in a market, in any given market, Ryan, kind of explain about how you go about bidding on those ads without, getting into too much technical terms. How do you go about explaining the platform and how it works to go out to basically make sure that the bids are working?
Yeah. Now, the cool part about a lot of it is it's automated based on your inventory as well. Now, of course, we run all of ours on a 30-day blanket where we set the budget on a net 30-day. So basically, it's a daily spend. Now, those two types of spends can be dictated across two different types of ways. So those are budget controlled or inventory controlled. So again, to ensure that we aren't wasting budget or that we're not bidding on keywords that either A, you no longer have inventory for, or aren't yielding the best results. Those are done by optimizations based on performance. So we have a set of, indicators or, performance indicators that allow us to say, hey, this is not performing as well as this keyword. And it'll automatically adjust the budget based on the performance. Again, we also have the budget controlled ads that we can connect to sales data as well. So if you have higher sales in December, around the 15th, we can start allocating budget, again, reducing advertising waste. We start running a higher spend through the 15th to the 21st, and then level that spend back off towards the end of the month, or whatever fits the either incentive sales cycle that month, or again, it could just be strategy to release that budget. So we have a handful of checks and balances to ensure that the budget's spent correctly, and that's done at a very high level. Again, those are done a multitude of ways through either the budget controlled or inventory controlled style of advertising that allows us to send signals based on performance that keeps the most relevant or the most profitable keywords and ads always serving through the most budget.
Well, great. I want to thank you all so much for attending. Jerry, do you want to close it with basically giving out your direct number as well as your email address? And Gianna, if you'll give out your email address as well so that people can email you questions and you can direct them to the correct people.
Let me go ahead and spell it for everyone. My email is gianna@waynereaves.com, and that's GIANNA, and then @waynereaves.com.
Great. Thank you all for attending. And Simeon, Zena, thank you again so much for doing this. We really do appreciate it.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody.